No, don't you think the film was concluded in a very utopian manner? Because basically Ray tried to cater to the middle class taste. Don't you feel so? Don't you feel so?
Yes, that is the defect with the film, and otherwise it's almost a masterly exercise. But Ray was very clear, no, in his utterances, in his observations, in his claims that he needed an audience, and he would go to up to this point and not beyond. But here, what he's done, you know, he very hurriedly patches up the ending, and that is very is dangerous almost. You know, it narcotizes the viewer into believing that the market is there, the jobs are there.
Exactly.
Is post-partition is a recessionary market, extremely recessionary, and the Seth Sahukars on the one hand and the boxwallas on the other are only too eager to have easy pickings. So employ somebody at the lowest salary, fire him whenever you want. In that situation, when Aruti tells Subroto, such a big city, so many offices, so many people are working, don't you think there will be at least one of us, a job for one of us? Then Subroto out of the blue says, why one? Who knows? Both of us may be employed. Now, and then you remember they walk out into the street and they mingle with the crowd, and the music sounds victorious, but it is very rhetorical, and rather that is the very, for me it's almost a pathetic ending to otherwise a formidable film, you know. So then I go to that eternal troublemaker for much of his life, if not the whole of his life, Mrinal Sen. Nobody's child. Nobody's child. And he enjoyed it. And Calcutta for him is El Dorado, which gives him all kinds of opportunities to needle the class to which Sen himself belongs, the middle class. Because he has been able to see through the hypocrisies, the double standards, the falsehoods that constitute the middle class. And then he puts it into work. But I have made him the pan-Indian filmmaker by making a reading of his Okauri Katha. As you know, it is based on Kafan, written by Premchand, set in what is now Uttar Pradesh. But what does he do? The man does a kind of somersault and reaches the benighted feudal acres of Telangana and takes for the main protagonist the father who claims, don't work, because work is always against the worker. It is always for the employer. The feudal lord will always take things from you. If needed, when you are asleep, he will steal even your loincloth. But he will never remunerate you properly. You will never get your service. So work is a trap laid out by the village moneylender, the village priest, and of course the feudal lord. And he brings someone from Karnataka, Vasudeva Rao, to play this. And for the daughter-in-law, he takes Mamta Shankar from Bengal. Right? So what he does, you know, he makes a huge, quixotic film, which has actually stood the test of time. If you read immediately after his death, Soumitra Chattopadhyay wrote in Anandabajar Putrika, saying that one day I went to Manikda's place, as I often would, and I found him pacing up and down. And then seeing him in a very excited mood, he said, Soumitra, I have just seen Mrinal's latest film. I wish I were the director of that film. It's called Okauri Katha. A man who had usually in his lifetime not found much virtue in Sen's filmography, here he's saying that this film is so masterly that I wish I were the maker of this film. So I made a reading of that, and then I go to Garam Hawa, and then I go to Grihojuddho, and then I go to something very modern, very recent, like घोड़े को जलेबी खिलाने ले जा रहा हूँ. And then there are 2 documentaries, 8 fictional features, and the other one is called Quarter Number 4/11. It's about, this South City Mall in Calcutta, the biggest in eastern India, which stands on so-called the skeletons and the dead dreams, broken dreams of generations of workers who made Usha Fan Factory possible, such a well-known name all through Asia, not just India. All through Asia, Usha fans were in, and even in Africa, Usha fans. So there was one worker from Bihar, Shambhu Prasad Singh, who refused to vacate his quarter. That was 4/11. And what happens to that family under the pressure of... So once I saw that documentary, again it was life and cinema and politics coming together. I've never entered that unholy largest mall in eastern India. I said, no, I cannot afford to. I told myself, I didn't have to tell anybody. This is the first time publicly I'm saying it, that I've never entered there, because those sheaf of apartments, the skyscrapers, and this huge mall stands on that area. Shambhu Prasad lost his life in a hit and run accident. It was made to appear as an accident, but we can, or for lack of evidence, we cannot catch the culprit, but we can always imagine how such dissenters are neutralized by big capital. What happened to that little boy of his? What happened to that young wife of his, who, whilst the giant hammers were breaking down the quarters and the buildings, were there in that 4/11 small space? The woman doing her puja, tailoring, doing some tailoring job. The boy preparing her little boy to go to school. And Shambhu Prasad, to keep the home fires burning, becoming a helper in a minibus. So, and how does the thing end? I have ended it with the example of Safdar Hashmi. Safdar Hashmi's death is related, absolutely related to the working class. It was he who actually made CITU a force in the 80s in that whole industrial zone of all those, these factories in and around, small and medium factories in and around Delhi. And so they had to do away with him. Now you can say, but sir, he is basically a theatre person. Yes, but you couldn't find a greater lover of Ghatak than him. He found virtue in Ray, but it was Ghatak, Ghatak and Ghatak. So that even if you read his book, The Death and Life of Safdar Hashmi by Sudhanva Deshpande, you will see that people used to, all the people who used to go to his office, Safdar's office, and they were discussing cinema, and it was very deep conversations. They would say, at the back, there would be a big portrait of Ghatak, and on the side of that portrait would be a smaller, a scene from, I think, Pother Pachali. So, as if, symbolically, he was trying to say something about his likes and very strong likes. So, he was very much a cineast, a film lover, but he's... So it starts with Mantu, ends with Safdar, and there are 10 films, 8 fictional and 2 documentaries to do with the laboring classes, some in Hindi, some originally made in Hindi, some made in Urdu, some Hindustani, some made in Bangla, some made in Telugu. So that is why I think he's the pan-Indian. Others have also, other Indian directors, there are many examples. Gautam Ghosh has done work in other languages. He has worked in Hindi, he's worked in Telugu, he has worked in Bangla. But Ray has also worked in Odia. And he made a classic, Matiro Manusha till today, only the Matiro Sen, Matiro Manusha is considered still today. The film estates over there think that it is the first political film in Oriya. And Nirud Mahapatro, who is himself such a big teacher and ideologue and practitioner of cinema, made only one fictional feature, but on the basis of that, he's a very important figure in the annals of New Indian cinema. Said, Mrinal Babu's this film will last. So this is the way, these people taught us, our generation. I don't have to speak too much about Ray because there are so many others there to speak better on, and more on Ray. There are also others, cult figure Ghatak. But as I described Sen, he's nobody's child, and in my case, it was a late discovery. It was a late discovery.
When you were in college?
Huh?
When you were in college?
Yeah, even in college. This thing, new film society movement. When actually did they really start taking interest in Mrinal Sen? That is when Cine Central actually began to show deep and abiding respect and interest in his work that the Federation was forced to. Otherwise, it was more a little personality cult of Ghatak and a big personality cult of Ray, and this is the way the film society movement was going. Bhuvan Show, why? They showed, there's one thing, mistake, I think it's a wrong notion. He had already made at least 2 classics before that. Paishes Rabun, it was neglected. It is still not so much noticed and written about as it should be. Matiro Manusha has not at all been touched. And then comes to...
But he gained a cult status through
This is a cult. We don't want a cult. We want a creative interpretation of neglected nuggets. You see, that is the work of a true film lover, a true film writer, an interpreter. To blaze a new trail. Those which have been neglected, discover them, display them for the world to see and appreciate. You see, otherwise what's the fun, man? You are walking the same path that abler people than you have done. People who perhaps understood cinema better than you, could put it into word better than you. It is always the traveler. There was a Brazilian poet who wrote, Walker, roads are not there. The roads are made by walking. Roads are never there, actually. When you start walking and walking and walking, your footprints make the road. So this is very important. If you want to do something pioneering, something new, something bold, original, after all, what are you discussing? We are discussing New Indian cinema. Then our approach should be also new. Seek what has not been sought after, go after that. That is why Sen, despite his very uneven, and another thing, the artist in him, what is he makes one film, it's a grand success. And soon after, consecutively, he has 2 absolute flops. But that is not enough to dishearten him. He goes on, and then he makes another important film. Then 3 flops. Then again he makes an important film. And that is the grit, the determination. I will not give up. I'm an artist. I'm bigger than God. That, what is God in front of me, a creator? I'm human, and it is my birthright to fall sometimes. And it's equally my birthright to pick up myself up and continue on the journey. That is why Sen is so damn important.
Yes, but we'll return to Mahanagar for a while at least. Because the treatment of the Anglo-Indian people, could you please say a few words about that? Because we have seen films like 36 Chorungi Lane, But
Actually, you know what? I was speaking to Alan Seeley. He's a very important Anglo-Indian writer living in Dehradun. He's from Lucknow, La Martiniere, Stephens and all that. And he was under the impression that it would be a better life for him after a point in New Zealand. Like, you know, droves of Calcutta Anglo-Indians and Anglo-Indians from other parts went away to Australia, Canada, New Zealand and all that, England. He went to New Zealand and then said, no. My home is back in India. My home is in Lucknow. So he settled down with his New Zealand wife in Dehradun, and that's where he stays. He wrote what I consider to be the great Indo-Anglian novel, Trotternaama. It speaks about an Anglo-Indian family called the Trotters, 7 generations. It is so dense, it is so difficult. And once you have entered Trotternaama, it becomes such a pleasurable experience that the government of India thought it good enough to be given just a Sahitya Academy award and then to be put on the back burner. So you have all the Amitabh Ghoshas, and you have all the Vikram Seths, and you have all the, Arundhati Roys and all that, and their films. But this film, this book is fantastic. Now to get back to your question about the treatment of the Anglo-Indians in 36 Chowringhee Lane and in here. 36 Chowringhee, Alan Seeley, I met him in Calcutta once, and he told me, I don't like 36 Chowringhee at all. Aparna Sen has made us look like we are a weak, moping, feeble community who would not know how to fight back, who will take all kinds of insults lying down because we are so few in number, our purchasing power is so low, we wear a different kind of dress than the majority, we eat differently, we speak a different kind of patois English. Made us look pathetic, yaar, he told him. But Ray, the master that he is, she in a whole film does a whole lot of damage, he told me. And I see actually his point of view also. There is something in his, even if I don't agree with it wholly, I agree with, he has a point. As an Anglo, he's talking like an Anglo-Indian. You must get into his shoes and understand what he's trying to say. Here, Ray, he is like Aparna Sen, a Bengali. He, like Aparna Sen, is a Calcuttan. And he talks about, in just a few sequences, gives you a very potent portrait of a community on the decline, which was till the other day Rajat, considered used them wrongly, perhaps, yes, and therefore committed excesses. But who didn't? The Bengalis, the Sikhs, the Nizam, the Marathas, didn't they all contribute to 250 years of enslavement? Why just pick on them? At least they have a rationale to offer, that there's a drop of British blood, maybe doubtful blood, but a drop of blood in their bones, in their veins. You see, now this is the difference between a master and somebody who also makes interesting films. You see, he has been able to establish the identity, the inner core. He has been able to reach the inner core. It is a defiant community. It is a very virile community. You step on my shoes, and I'm going to strike back. But violence don't have. She's treated so shabbily by the young Bengali couple. She does not say anything. Maybe that is a part of the picture. But then you should have had some other character in that. See, somebody, the niece of Halasanam goes off to Australia and is sending letters, come over, there is no future for our community in Calcutta. So she has left. That means she has admitted defeat. Or the brother of Halasanam is in an elder people's home. He's lost his head. He's wasting away. There is not a single contrasting figure. Everybody is on the taking defeat, taking it, whatever is being doled out to them by the city and its majority community. You know, that he actually said something very sensible. There's room enough to think along those lines.